So again, welcome everyone so far. We're going to be hearing from Julie Burke, who's the principal, and Molly Musler of GA Creative. They are a women-owned branding and advertising agency in Puget Sound, whose focus is to help bring client stories to life, starting with branding, all the way through content marketing and lead generation campaigns. So we're going to get kicked off with Julie. And then we'll hand it over to Molly about midway, and we'll have a short break in the middle for folks to get coffee, etc. And if you want to stay on during the break, an opportunity to ask questions. So take it away, Julie.
I think you're muted, Julie.
I said some really pithy stuff right there. Hi, all. Thank you so much for inviting us to share a little bit about marketing inside and out for small businesses across the across Washington State, looking to really amplify their brand in their communities and attract not only customers, but employees. And so we've put together a little presentation here today, and as Cami mentioned, we will open it up to Q&A about halfway in between, and then also leave room at the end to share a little bit more, address any questions you have. And we will be providing this deck to you all, and this will be recorded. So Cami will be sending around a follow-up to all of those who are attending. So to kind of give you a sense of what we're covering today, we are going to talk about the importance of branding and what branding really means, and then jump into understanding your customers and employees and how important it is for you to reflect that in the interactions you have with your customers and employees. And talk a little bit about first impressions and really setting the foundation a really strong brand. And then, as Cami mentioned, we'll have a little bit of break, and then I will pass it over to Molly to start with how to tell your story in a way that sticks, some building blocks of creating your online presence from website and social to online reviews, and then ways to get in front of your prospective customers and employees. So what is a brand? I'm sorry, did someone have a question?
I think we just had a muting issue.
Oh, okay. All right. So a lot of times, small and micro business owners, sustaining a business on walk-ins alone can be really difficult, and finding employees can be equally difficult. And so today's presentation is really geared towards those businesses that focus on repair, including rental and sharing, as well as refilling, like at bulk or zero waste stores, and creative reuse, which, by the way, we found this brilliant little way that someone has converted an old TV into a crate and bed for their dog. I thought that was adorable. So just some remarkable things that businesses like you all are doing to really promote a sustainable lifestyle. This training is really intended to educate you on branding and marketing best practices so that you may grow your business in a sustainable way. And when it comes to branding and marketing, there are several things you need to do to attract new customers and employees, making it easy to find you in your community and online, as well as drive referrals from happy customers. And so what is branding? Put simply, a brand is the way employees and customers perceive you. It includes their impressions, emotions, or feelings, expectations, and decisions they make about you. A brand is not your name and logo. It's about all the ways you interact with your community, from how you treat your employees to how you answer the phone to the experience you give your customers. So branding is the way you want to be perceived. Your brand identity is the way you present yourself in terms of your logo, your name, your logo, visuals, your website, that kind of thing. And then your brand is really the way people perceive you. So what are the qualities of a successful brand? The most important qualities are being genuine. Your personality as a business needs to be authentic and uniquely reflect who you are. You need to be consistent. So consistency in your look and feel and how you tell your story really helps customers remember who you are, but it also can equate to trust, which is a hallmark of many strong brands. And then lastly, it really needs to reflect the communities you serve and, the customers that you're working with, the employees that work for you. It's really important that you make that strong connection between you and your community. Your brand is made up of so many different elements like colors, look and feel, tone of voice, working together to convey the one message about who you are as a business and why they should care. But it really needs to reflect the services you offer. And so, oftentimes people jump ahead and say, well, I really just need to bring new customers in. And by putting some effort into who you are and making sure that it really reflects the authentic you and what you're trying to deliver to your community, the easier it will be to then take the next steps in building your brand among your customers and employees. So the promise of a strong brand, if you build that strong foundation, you are delivering on a great place to work. You are giving employees reasons to want to work and stay working with you, and they will become strong advocates for you as a business. It also equates to customer loyalty. Increasing customer loyalty is important to identify your values and embody that in how you deliver your services to keep customers coming back and to encourage them to refer their friends, neighbors, and families to you. And lastly, it means growth. Ultimately, if you build a strong brand, people know about you, trust you based on the experience that you've given them. They'll refer you to others who might need your services or products, and they'll come to you when they need something else. And so it's important that you need to understand who your audience is and why they would be coming to you for your services. We like to think of taking a customer and employee-centric approach to understanding your audiences. And we like to introduce this idea of creating personas or fictional representations of your customers and employees that give you insights into who they are and what they're interested in, what motivates them, what barriers they might have in working with you, and then communication preferences. How do they find information about the types of services and products that you might be selling in your communities? They enable you to compile insights that will help tailor messages about the products and services you offer to meet their specific needs and to speak to what motivates them. For example, if a motivator is sustainability, we can deduce that a concern is the environment and a need is to leave as small a footprint as possible. You can lean into online research as you gain a better understanding of who your potential customers and employees are and what's important to them. And I'm going to share 3 sample personas or profiles of people who fit within kind of this smart consumption persona. And this is based on research out of Finland and Vancouver, BC, but could be a good starting point for you to talk with your customers and employees and gain firsthand insights that better reflect your community. But I think it's a great start to understand kind of how people are thinking about this. And one interesting thing is, the opportunity. 71% of rural voters and 75% of urban or suburban voters said the environment and conservation were important to them. Yet rural residents demonstrated even greater intent to take actions to protect the environment. And this research from Duke University and their Nicholas Institute for Environmental Policy Solutions is really just saying that it's not just an urban and suburban trend, that rural residents too are really getting behind the environment and ways we can better sustain our lifestyles. So how do you find customers, employees that are in line with your services and values? And you can see here, we have in the lower left-hand quadrant, less sustainable living lifestyles and other motivations. And then up in the right-hand quadrant, we have people who are motivated by the planet and motivated by living a more sustainable lifestyle. And so I'm going to focus on these three personas that you see in this upper right quadrant. And it's not only important to talk about the motivations of those who are interested in buying your products and services, but it's also important to think about what barriers they might have in terms of working with you. And we typically find that these barriers fall in one of 5 different categories. Lack of awareness and knowledge is being one of the first barriers to be addressed. So they may not understand that your business even exists or know that something of this type, like being able to fix something that's broken or creatively reuse something that isn't being used right now, or misinformation or inconsistent information about what it might take. The second main barrier, typical barrier, is around cost. And cost plays a factor for some, not all. And so it's important to articulate the cost benefit when you are able. So in terms of, repair versus replace, there's this 50% rule of thumb that's often cited. And if it costs more than 50% to repair it, then replace it. But it doesn't take into consideration all of the nuances of a repair versus a replace solution. Potentially another way that you could look at this is the value added minus cost of repair equals the profit over loss. And this can be especially true for older items that have been built using more lasting materials, or vintage or antique items that when refurbished become something much more valuable, and items that are sentimental are hard to replace. But cost also has to do with employees. What are the benefits that you are giving employees that other employers might be providing? And so cost is important to them in terms of what it is you can pay them and what benefits you might offer them in addition. Time and effort. So for your customers, depending on what the item that needs to be repaired, they may need immediate results. Like a furnace in the winter is pretty important, and a part delay could be a deciding factor on whether to fix or replace. But if their furnace broke in the fall, they may be able to get by as they wait for a part. Whereas items that have sentimental value don't necessarily have an urgency behind them, such as repairing an old clock or restoring mom's wedding dress. But time and effort can also be a barrier for potential employees. What is the time and effort it takes to learn to do the trade it is that you are asking them to do? What type of support or onboarding program are you going to offer to train them in doing things for your business? In terms of physical ability, this can be a barrier especially in the case of repairing or restoring an item that is heavy or difficult for someone's physical ability. It's interesting. My mother-in-law has a vintage tabletop slot machine that is jammed and needs to be fixed, but is so heavy that I personally can't move it. And I've been looking online. So if anybody has any recommendations, I welcome it. And then lastly, negative perceptions. In the case of fixing or refurbishing, there could be the perception, for instance, that newer is better. It could also be, someone has a zero waste store where you're providing bulk items to folks, and maybe the barrier is finding a container. So just trying to find out what those perceptions are and how we can overcome them. So this first persona is the waste not, want not persona. And what they found in this research was that this group tends to be, they skew a little bit older. They are on fixed income. So when it comes to stuff, they typically will be open to buying secondhand goods. And they also are inclined to repair goods that they want to still use, donate or resell those items that they don't want. In terms of purchasing, this persona is definitely driven by price. As I mentioned, they are on fixed income, and so price is important to them. And so they oftentimes are looking for sales and discounts and are trying to calculate what that profit and loss is when it comes to repair or replace. In terms of community, they actively volunteer to improve their community and the environment. They oftentimes are looking at traditional media sources. So when I say traditional media, what I mean is print media, TV, radio, even posters at the grocery store or the community center. But they also are online. And so despite what many think, most Americans now are online, whether it be on their phone, a tablet, or a PC. And so people are becoming more accustomed to finding information online. And for this audience, they really want to be engaged with facts and rational thought. And so it's important that we really give it to them straight, if you will, and tell them what the benefits are of your products and services and why they should care, and really speak to that cost benefit value prop. The next persona, which is also in that upper right-hand quadrant, is the echo trends persona. This audience skews a little bit younger, in the 30 to 39-year-old range. It skews female. And when it comes to stuff, they repair first before buying new. They might be more inclined to try and repair things on their own before they try new. They also like to look for things that are secondhand. So they really are consciously making choices about how they purchase items and whether or not they can repair or find something secondhand before buying something new. And so they really are making that conscious, eco-conscious choice when they are buying. And that eco-conscious choice is more important to them than the cost of that choice. They also take part in their community and really in hands-on volunteer opportunities and eco campaigns. So whenever someone is trying to introduce them to a new product or service or opportunity to buy something secondhand or get it repaired, they're going to be open to that message. And for them, where they find their information first and foremost is through friends and connections. So they have a circle of friends and connections that also align with this eco trends persona, who give them recommendations in person and online. So through social media, as well as other sources of sustainable living information. So this Eco Trends motivation really likes to live and make decisions that are aligned with lighter living to reduce their environmental impact by buying more consciously and buying less. And they feel it is their responsibility to choose higher quality products that last longer. And they place more trust in local producers. And so this is a really great persona for you to align with, because they could also become your greatest advocates, because they are finding information online from their friends and connections. And in turn, they're sharing what they find with their friends and connections. So this is a really loyal audience that could be a really valuable customer for you in the future. And lastly, the healthy life and planet persona. This skews 40 to 59 years old. It's skews slightly more female, but it's closer to a 50-50 female male. Like the Eco Trends persona, when it comes to stuff, they do lean towards repairing things first before buying new and getting things secondhand, rather than purchasing new when possible. People with the healthy life and planet do what's best for their health and wellness and for the planet. They like to live lighter in all aspects of their life. However, they tend to skew a little bit older than that Eco Trends audience. They are driven by the need to make choices to avoid potential negative impacts. So think about landfills versus fix and repair. They are very active in their communities and vote, take part in eco campaigns, volunteer regularly, and participate in community projects that advocate well-being in their communities. They also have a really high propensity to refer your business in the interest of getting others to consider it to support that sustainable lifestyle. For them, time is not a perceived barrier, and this is very evident in their choices. Their attitude and choices suggest they're systems thinkers who believe there is an interrelationship between systems, human health, and nature. And because of this belief, they really do their homework and research to find safer alternatives for their health, and are often advocating those same choices to their community. So like the Eco Trends persona, they're definitely going to be great advocates and referral sources for you to grow your business. And similar to the waste not, want not persona, they want facts and rational thought. They want to be able to share with others that by doing these small changes in my life in terms of my choices and how I determine whether to purchase new or purchase old or secondhand, they really want to make sure that you are doing good for the community. So first impressions. When we think about first impressions and when it comes to branding, we're thinking about your name and your logo and the look and feel that you have for your company. And when it comes to your name, your business name is really oftentimes the first thing your customer sees and shapes their first impressions. So from the sign on your storefront to an ad in the local paper or on your website. And it also determines how easily existing and potential customers and employees can recognize your brand. A catchy name might differentiate you from the competition and tend to be more memorable, but it typically costs more to get the name to stick. So if you're just getting started with your business or find that your name is limiting you in a way, then consider these criteria when you're thinking of a new name. So is it appropriate and appealing to your target audience? Does the name connect to what your business is about? Does it limit you in any way? Or does it have the potential to be memorable? And so those are some of the strategic questions you need to think about when you're looking at your business name or considering rebranding with a new name. Linguistic questions. Is it easy to pronounce and spell? Does it limit you in any way? And oftentimes what we find is when a business is looking to grow, they might be expanding their products and services. And so if the name is really specific to one type of product or service, and you know you're going to grow into other types of products and services, that might be the time to change your name when you know that you are growing. Also, we found that if a business is thriving and you know you want to open multiple locations or expand your geographic reach, a name with a local area connection can be limiting. Availability is also a critical consideration when looking at your name. Can you use it without infringing on another business's trademark? There have been numerous stories of litigation where a small business has used a name, and as they've grown, they discover that there is a trademark infringement, and that can become very problematic later down the line. So if you are just up and running and need to evaluate whether or not there's a trademark issue, you can go to the US Patent and Trademark Office URL, which we'll have at the end of the deck, to see if your business name is already trademarked or too similar to an existing trademark that it could cause confusion. And then is the domain name available? And by domain name, I mean the URL. So if they're going to find you online, if you don't have a website already and you're looking to find one that's similar to your business name, you need to search for that and secure that URL. And one place to search is on GoDaddy.com to see if the URL is available. Another option in terms of finding a URL is potentially using a tagline or other type of phrase to find a URL that will work for your business. Next, it's about your logo. You know, a lot of times people feel like a logo needs to include a fancy, graphic or word, mark next to the name, and sometimes simple is best. And so even just a nice typeface logo where it's just the name of your business can be simple and memorable and timeless and relevant. In fact, it also allows them to be really versatile and used in a variety of ways, especially if you are choosing to co-market your business with other organizations or put your logo on a community event. It can make it a lot easier for you to see your logo in a variety of materials. You want to make sure your logo is relevant today, but will be timeless and can, expand as your business expands. If you do choose to have an icon, symbol, or mark, make sure it's relevant to your business and that customers understand how it ties to your business. And then lastly, we just want to make sure that you're using a high quality logo. So I've worked with some clients where they've had someone close to the business or a friend or a family member design a logo for them, and they'll scan it in on their phone, and it's a very low resolution, low quality image, and it doesn't reflect the quality of the business itself and the products and services they offer. So it's really important that you use high resolution artwork that works online and in print. In terms of your tagline, a tagline is an opportunity, especially if you have a unique name for your business, to, consider something that's descriptive, what it is you do. So if your business name isn't reflective of what you do, but perhaps it carries a family name, then you need to help bring meaning to that company name by coming up with a descriptive tagline. If the name of your company is pretty descriptive, it's an opportunity for you to explore a few different options that are focused on the benefits, a superlative, are you the best at something? It could be provocative or imperative. So for companies that have a unique name, a descriptive tagline can be best. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. We've all heard that before. Geico has very little meaning until you connect it with that descriptive tagline. The benefit-driven message can be stronger for those that like think of Bounty paper towels, the quicker picker-upper. Budweiser, the king of beers. So an example of someone using the superlative approach. Got milk is the perfect example of a provocative approach where you ask a question. Or just do it takes on an imperative approach and is synonymous with Nike. So there are a number of different approaches to taglines, and like logos, there are some similar characteristics that you want to look for, but at the end of the day, you want to keep it simple, consistent, and memorable. So a strong visual identity needs to accompany your name and tagline. And so that is in your logo, your colors, the graphics or photos that you use, the illustrations or icons that you use, and the typeface or font. You know, once you've established your visual identity, then it's important to establish guidelines and remain consistent in how you present your business. So keep consistent with the color palette you use. Keep consistent with the style of photography or the style of graphics that you're using, or the types of icons that you're using to represent different information. It's just as important to be consistent with how you tell your story. And so with that, I'm going to pause and open it up for questions. And Cami, I'm going to lean on you if you can find out if there's questions. Maybe you can moderate those. I see in the chat that Heather Trim sent a note saying, we'll talk a little bit more about where to get help with market research in our risky business session later today. And I also know that Cami has worked on putting together a presentation for next week in relation to human resources, including attracting employees, although we will touch a little bit about that in our session later this morning. Molly will get into some ways that you can attract and recruit employees. If folks want to put questions in the chat, it looks like I have the ability to see the chat from here. I'm more than happy to answer questions around branding, personas, kind of how to get started there, how to think about that, where to go to get some help with that. There's a lot of great freelance resources out there right now that are a terrific source for a small business just getting started, or with a small business that has a limited budget to put towards this, but recognize the value and the importance of this. There's an online website called Upwork. That's spelled upwork.com. That's a great source for online talent. It tells you what the people's skills are, how they can help. It shows examples of some of the work they've done. It also includes reviews. So everyone is reviewed on the projects that they've done for different clients. And so you can see how many projects they've completed and what their star reviews are. And you can find some incredibly great talent through Upwork if you do a little searching. And it's a very smart search engine. So you can search for some very specific things like logo or brand identity or graphic design support or copywriting support. And so if you need to lean in on that, another option in some smaller communities is trading services. So if you're offering services that you could trade with someone in terms of trading your services or products for their services and products, it's a great way to build a community there as well. I see, how do you determine colors? For instance, Target is red, USPS is blue. How does color choice influence our target audience? And as a startup, should we focus on color in early stage branding? And this is Ezra. Ezra, that's a really great question. Color choice is very important in terms of impacting people's emotions and thoughts. And in terms of choosing colors, they should really reflect who you are as an organization. You know, oftentimes when people think of sustainable brands and environmental organizations, greens and blues and natural color palettes come to mind. It's a natural connection to lean on the greens and blues and browns. And you can take unique approaches to that as well in terms of the colors you choose to reflect what it is you do. And so I think looking at the environment to be inspired by color palettes could be one direction you have. There's a lot of research and theory around color choice as well. In terms of the different meanings of different colors. And so happy to provide, and let me write that down, a link to some sources that give you some information about the different meanings of different colors, because that could help inspire you. But I encourage you to look in nature, because all of us here are, leaning towards, identifying ways for our communities to be a little bit more sustainable in how we live.
And I might just add to that when you're getting started, it's a good idea to develop, like Julie was saying earlier, a whole color palette. So maybe your first, your primary color is a shade of blue or green, but then to either think about or work with a freelance designer to come up with some complementary colors so that every single thing you do isn't that same exact color only. And then you can use sort of nice complementary colors on different things such as your website or ads if you go ahead and do that. And to sort of round out that palette and make you stand out a little bit, because like Julie was saying, the environment sort of makes people think of blues and greens. And so then there's a lot of blue and green out there. So you might want to have some different shades and different complementary colors mixed in as well.
Absolutely. Great thoughts, Molly. Looks like Jonathan has a question here. You mentioned photos. Can you speak a little bit about how social media influences your company's identity? So I think those might be a couple different thoughts, but One of the things that we really encourage clients to do is, at least in the communications that you put out to your communities, including on social media, but also on your website or in collateral, is you should have an image style. So if you are using photos, you really need to think about what is the photo style you're trying to achieve and how do you replicate that in the photos you're doing. So you can see in this picture here, actually, a lot of the photos are portraits of people and they're close up and the people are looking at the camera. That's a chosen photography style. Maybe your choice is showing people actively engaging with your product or services. Maybe someone's shopping in your store and buying bulk goods using their reusable container, or maybe you want your imagery to really just reflect, a healthy planet. And so maybe your photos are really focused on nature and the environment. So there's some obvious photo choices. It also could be that you have a style of photographing the products that you serve. And so it's important for you to really take an intentional approach to photography, and to replicate that both on your website and in social media and other means. In terms of reflecting that in your social media, by establishing consistency, you're telling a really strong story. So people are going back and experiencing your brand in a consistent way as you share new and important information with them. I hope that answers your question, Jonathan. Molly, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Well, I was just gonna say, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about social media later. And so we can get into it a bit more, and hopefully those two things will answer your question.
Great. And Heather mentions, Heather's the executive director of Zero Waste Washington, one of the organizations that is responsible for putting this training together for all of you. And she mentions that for the Repair Economy Project, they surveyed some of their early member groups about possible logos and colors and came up with cross tools and Seahawks inspired colors, which just so happen to also be enviro leaning. Any other questions? Comments? So I think we're going to take a 5-minute break and regroup at 10:50 here. I will be here and Molly will be here if folks have additional questions, or if you want to make sure we know ahead of time what you'd like to hear in this next session. I'm happy to review kind of the agenda for the next part of this. And if you have questions up front about what you're looking to get out of today's presentation, we'd be happy to address that. I'm hoping that we have a lot of that content in what it is that we've planned for you today. But, Molly, as she mentioned, will be talking about social media, but we're going to really start with how to build the building blocks of your online presence. So now that you have, a name and logo, colors, kind of image style, what it is that you can do to kind of build on that. And so she's going to touch on value propositions and how to develop a value proposition, including the types of questions you'd ask to land on that. And then she's also going to talk about kind of 5 different approaches to creating value propositions. And we can share some examples of that in the follow-up that we share with you. She's also going to talk about messaging frameworks in terms of what they are, why they're important, how to create them, and how often you need to revisit those. Messaging is critically important to how you tell your story, and by being consistent, and you're hearing these words over and over again, simple, consistent is the way to go in terms of helping people remember who you are, what you do, and why they should care. And that includes both customers and employees. And then she's going to touch on some of the principles of good storytelling in terms of how you take that messaging framework and then use that to develop content on your website and in social media, collateral, any advertising you might do. And from there, she's going to touch on the building blocks of your online presence. So really establishing your website presence, because a website is important to create. Your Facebook page alone cannot be your online presence. It's really important to have a website, and it doesn't have to be big or unruly or difficult to manage, but it is important to establish a website, and she'll get into that a little bit. And she'll also get into where you can go to build a website, and what kind of tools you can use off the shelf to build a website or get help building a website. What it is you include on your website, kind of the key elements that you need to have on there to really showcase your brand and create that and those first impressions. And then she's going to go into social media and how you should be thinking about social media in terms of what it is you do. And then I know there's been a lot of interest in, once you establish kind of your online presence, how do you get your business in front of those prospective and employees and customers? And so she's going to talk a little bit about push versus pull strategies to drive awareness, how you can measure the success of your efforts. So the importance of establishing some metrics up front so you are able to measure the work that you're doing and improve and optimize that effort moving forward. Some different ways that you can drive traffic to your website and build a following on social media. And then connecting people who are actively searching for the types of products and services you offer, and how to really measure and monitor that. So it looks like Nicole said the last section interests me the most. So that's great. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Molly. It looks like it's 10:50. So let me get to where we're going.
Hop forward a few slides.
Exactly.
So like Julie said, I'm going to talk a lot about storytelling and how to tell your story in a way that sticks, because every brand, every company has a story. And, we just want to share a little bit about how to get that story and out in a way that resonates with your customers. So like Julie was saying, it all starts with a strong value proposition. So now that we've thought about the personas and who is most likely to purchase your fix or refurbished services, how do we get this meaningful value proposition that resonates with their needs and their interests and motivations? So just as a reminder, a value proposition is the end benefit a customer receives after interacting with you, purchasing a product, service, or solution. There are 5 kind of value proposition categories that you can kind of think about as you're creating your value proposition. And those are productivity, profitability, image, experience, and convenience. And a good place to start is sort of answering these questions on screen. What product or service are you selling? Who should buy it? How will it improve their life? Why should they buy it from you? And, what makes you unique and different? So like an example of a value proposition from, a company that we all know, Uber. So thinking about Uber's very simple value proposition, tap the app, get a ride. Uber is the smartest way to get around. And that's how it just talks about this one tap and a car comes directly to you. Your driver knows exactly where to go and payment is completely cashless. It's very simple, to the point, talking about the convenience and their uniqueness in trying to differentiate itself from, the biggest competitor, Lyft. Another, an iPhone value proposition, why there's nothing quite like iPhone. Every iPhone we've made, and we mean every single one, was built on the same belief that a phone should be more than a collection of features. That above all, a phone should be absolutely simple, beautiful, and magical to use. So it's sort of really talking about what sets you apart, what makes you unique, and why your customers should buy it from you. So you can go to, there we go. Once we've thought about the value proposition, we think about a framework that is sort of all of the color around this value proposition. So your brand messaging is the underlying value proposition and language used in your content. And as far as language goes, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but it's really important just to retain that consistency throughout everything, every expression of your brand. The framework acts as these bumper lanes to craft messages about the services or products you offer. And so if you're claiming something, if you're claiming, that it's the easiest or fastest or best way to do something, then you need to be sure in your framework to have, proof points that are saying how does, prove this to me. You can't just like make a claim and, you need to like include all of those facts to back up what you're saying. Why do we do this? Is because consistency pays off. Research proves that messages are more effective when they're repeated and when your customers can see them in a variety of different settings. So you don't want to have different messages on your website than what you put on your social media or put in your posters that you're, putting out in the community, or your ads or anything like that. You need to have consistent messaging across the board that everyone uses, no matter what they're putting out. So how are we going to go about this? First, we're locking in the overarching value messages and updating supporting detail with proof points from the following things, or through the following things. Photos or videos of before and after refurbishing or fixing items like furniture, clothing, and toys. Customer testimonials are absolutely fantastic. If you can bring those in, it's amazing to be able to tell your story through someone else's voice. Same thing with independent third-party organizations like environmental research. That really adds credibility to the messages that you're putting out there. And a return on investment summary for those products in which you're increasing their viable life and or preventing items from going to the landfill. It's really important to include that information if and when you can. And how often do you want to update your messaging? It's a really good idea to revisit every 6 months or every time you have kind of a major company transition point, like when you you know, add new products or make new announcements, perhaps hire a bunch of new people, just making sure that the messaging that you're putting out there still reflects your brand appropriately. And a little bit about telling your story. Less is more for the most part. Although Julie was talking earlier about, you know, older audiences or audiences who really want you to kind of lead with the facts and figures. They have a tolerance for more information, but sometimes that can be communicated through lengthier brochures or downloads about how you can go about doing something. But in terms of just kind of general storytelling, and thinking about things like your website, less is definitely more. You know, punchy headline with some brief information. And if you want to get deeper, sure, click, you know, here's an opportunity to get more information. But you don't want to just kind of throw it all out there and put everything on the website and make it very long and bulky. People have a low tolerance for reading that much information. And then write in plain language that's accessible to all. Sometimes people get very clever and creative, but it can cloud the message. And you know, when we were looking at those Uber and Apple examples, I mean, that is really straightforward language. That is not, you know, flowery. That is like, this is what we do. This is what we believe. This is the benefit to you. But also at the same time, beware of boredom in storytelling and in how you're presenting the information. Obviously on well, really, I was going to say on your website, but kind of in any format. Most important information up top, and then kind of like rank, you know, it's sort of the journalistic writing, the inverted pyramid, most important on top, getting down to the nitty gritty on the bottom. But one way that you can kind of combat boredom is, you know, using sort of a friendly, happy tone so that people think they're being, so it seems like a conversation and not that they're just being marketed to, but then also just visual boredom as well. So break up big blocks of text with, you know, bullets and bold and like different font choices that are in line with your style guide that you've already created, that Julie was talking about. And so that, you know, people aren't just like staring at a great big block of text. And then, like I mentioned, stick to your script and your tone in everything. So think about what your brand voice is going to be. And, you know, maybe it's kind of lighthearted, maybe it's purely informational, maybe it's kind of, you know, talking like you're a best friend giving a recommendation. Don't switch that up in different materials, right? Like keep that tone throughout every single thing you do. So every interaction, it feels familiar. And that's how they become familiar with your company, with your brand. And then that's how you increase loyalty. They, you know, it's like customers keep coming back and they say, ah, yes, I know. I have a familiarity with this in part because of the tone and because of the consistency throughout everything in messaging and look and feel. So the building blocks, you can flip to the next one. The building blocks of your online presence is what I'm going to talk a little bit more about right now. And beginning, of course, with the website. So while some of our personas leaned into traditional ways of receiving information, and, you know, like Julie was saying, a majority of people today are online. So that kind of makes your website mandatory if you want your business to be easily found. And your website is a place people can go for more information about what you offer, but also just to generally get to know you. And it's something, when you're creating advocates of your brand, it's something that can be easily shared with others. And that's what you definitely want. So Julie already talked about, you know, the URL. It's really important when you're considering a URL. If you don't have a domain yet, search for available domains on GoDaddy.com. So about your URL though, you can use your company name, you can use a portion of your tagline or your whole tagline if it's very short. Something to consider though, if you think you might eventually do any types of advertising, like an advertising campaign that would incorporate maybe like a social media video that also had voiceover. It's important to think of how your URL sounds when you say it out loud and how long it takes to say it if you're saying it as a descriptive URL. So in the case of GoDaddy.com, you know, find us online at www.godaddy.com. So if your URL is very, very lengthy, then it makes it a lot harder to do things like that. So, you know, even if you don't think that maybe that's not something that you're planning in the next year or two, but it's a little more challenging to change your name down the line, that might be a consideration for your URL right now. Or if you have a longer name, using a shorter URL, picking something else that doesn't exactly match your name, but maybe speaks to that value proposition. So on your website, we definitely want to build a website that is responsive and mobile friendly, and as well as includes calls to action, in addition to, of course, being easy to use and navigate. So what responsive and mobile friendly means, a good kind of little cheat to see if a website is mobile friendly is if you look at it on your desktop, if you open up a website and then you kind of just drag pull on one side or the other side and make it small enough to look like a tablet, and then make it even smaller to look like a phone. And if the website follows with you and gets, kind of like sizes appropriately, then that's a mobile friendly website. And sometimes, that won't happen and the copy will disappear off into the ether, and then that's definitely not a mobile friendly website. But you want people are using their phones to search for things, and especially if they're kind of like out in the world and shopping and oh, okay, well let's go check out this and that and so you want them to be able to look you up on their phone, find the information they need, and still have the same experience that they're having on the desktop. Calls to action are just what do you want them to do? So do you want them to come to a place of business? Do you want them to set up an appointment to speak to someone, or to have someone come to their home to check out, something that they want to refurbish? Do you want them to sign up for your newsletter? So there are just a variety of calls to action that you should have on your website. So generally, you would pick the primary one, like in a dream world, what's the number one thing you want them to do? Well, then that call to action needs to be very high on your website. So you have your main value proposition, and then you have your main call to action. And then maybe in the next section, you go into kind of the next thing and you think, okay, what's my secondary call to action? All right, we'll put that in the next section, and it sort of still follows that inverted pyramid style. But you should have several calls to action throughout your website, because maybe somebody doesn't want to do that first one. Maybe like if your ideal is for them to book an appointment with you, but they don't feel like doing that right now, but maybe in the second or third section they would though sign up for your newsletter and receive information from you on a monthly basis as a way, so then you're reminding them monthly about your products and services, and they're staying in touch with you. So then maybe eventually they will go back and book that appointment. And just, easy to use and navigate. There are a lot of neat things you can add into websites these days and make it look very slick and wonderful, but sometimes they can take away from the experience. And so you just want to simplify, kind of simplifying in the messaging and the navigation is a better user experience for your customers and potential customers. So one way to create a website, if you don't already have one, you can, is using a website builder. Or even if you already have a website, but it could use some love, this might be a good option for you. So a website builder is an all-in-one web platform that includes every tool you could possibly need to build and maintain a website. And what's really nice about these website builders is that there's no experience needed. Good website builders, they typically include a variety of pre-built customizable website templates. And then they just have easy drag and drop editing tools. They have usually both blogging and e-commerce features. And then, plenty of photo and video storage, which is great for highlighting any customer projects that you're able to feature on your website, as well as they have email and social media tools. So, and then, of course, we want to think about security. So top website builder platforms also deliver done for you security, SSL certificates, and a domain name. And then the price is based on the site features and storage needs. So, and like most of them offer kind of several plans, so you can sort of pick and choose what exactly you need. We just put here, found in Forbes Advisor this year, the top ranked are Wix, Squarespace, and Web.com. And, at minimum, we recommend, will you be building the site yourself, or do you need design and setup assistance? Evaluating that, figuring that out going in, and thinking about what kind of integrations you might need, such as e-commerce, like purchasing refurbished items, estimate requests, or appointment scheduling. These are all widgets that you can add onto your website. And then what is the blog functionality? So blogging is the #1 way to drive organic traffic to your site by people looking for something specific related to what you offer. So that means like when people are going on Google and searching for search terms related to your business, the more that you're putting kind of dynamic content out there, the better, that has keywords in it. And I can talk a little bit more about, search friendly blog writing. But it's just kind of about including keywords in the blogs and regularly updating your blogs so that there's new content added and Google recognizes, oh, okay, wait, this is new content, and here I'm going to hook these people who are searching for this up with this website, and those results will show higher in Google search. So if you don't have a website yet, and have very little to show of your brand, your website is your opportunity to create a strong impression and set that tone and voice and image for your brand. So these are the this is like your checklist of what we recommend you definitely include on your website. Obviously your logo, and then your tagline if you opt to have one. That value proposition front and center, and imagery that's supporting what you do and your value proposition that really makes sense for your brand. And then go into what is it that you do? What are the specific services you offer, products you offer? Those prominent calls to action, what actions do you want them to take? Make it very easy for them to take those actions, and design your website in a way that those are, they really stand out. They're prominent buttons or very easy to see hyperlinks. And then don't forget those support points that underscore the benefits of working with you. Why choose your company over someone else's? how can they find you? You know, contact information, map. If you have a storefront, you want to make it easy for them to walk on in, and then the blog. And I will get into more of that when we talk about content marketing. So social media. Know a lot of you are curious about thinking about social media. So even though the young kids will tell you, like my teenagers will tell you, Facebook is dead. It's not. It remains the #1 social media outlet. This is the best place to start. Facebook, everyone is on Facebook. So consider expanding to Instagram or Pinterest, depending on the visual assets that you have available. So Instagram and Facebook are both owned by Meta, and they really have a lot of nice kind of cross promoting avenues if you want to go that route, if you get into sort of a paid social route. So they kind of hold hands. Pinterest is really nice for what we're talking about here. So when you have very, visual products, like the renovated dog bed TV that Julie showed on the cover, that's very pin-worthy and very Pinteresty. So that's another one that sometimes people want to do when they have visual assets available. So create your social media profile with your customer in mind, or your customer personas. Create this profile in a way that looks harmonious with your website and your other marketing materials. Look at it as a resource for anyone who's going to visit, and structure both your profile and your content accordingly. So social media content should be created in a strategic manner. You should create a content calendar and post in a way that is in line with your messaging that you've created. And as far as branding things on social media, so if you think of social media, you will probably have your logo or your mark, if you opt to use one, as your profile image. And then your header image, your timeline image, can be something that's very similar to sort of a main banner on your website, or a main feature image on your website, so that they look very harmonious. So when you're actually posting on social media, you don't necessarily need to brand every single photo that you post on social media, because when it's going to be seen or shared, it's associated with your profile, which already has your brand on it. So you don't necessarily need to spend the time to do that. However, that photo, or if you're doing like a shareable, it should stay in the same style, and in your color palette, and using the same fonts, and the caption that you put on should really be in line with your messaging, so that you're making sure that consistency is extending to your social media. It's really important to, when you create your social profiles, follow and engage with relevant people and community groups and local businesses. You can like all of those things as your business page. And then, when you go online as your business, go through your timeline, and as you're seeing these people that you like, comment on their stuff, like their posts, share their posts on your page, sort of engage, because then they will engage with you as well. And it also just makes you seem more like a resource and somewhere that customers can turn, instead of just a place where they're being kind of marketed at. You can establish expertise through DIY videos or articles. Those are amazingly helpful for your audiences. And, they don't have to be a big deal. There are really cheap, little steady, little tripods that you can use for a cell phone camera. On Amazon, there are quick little microphones that you can just plug into your phone to make sure the audio sounds great. There are tons of video tips, and we can definitely share more of those if anyone's interested. But those are the types of things, DIY videos and articles, they get shared. And if they're associated with you and you're targeting these right personas, they will be your advocates and they will spread that word of mouth. Share examples of successful repairs and definitely feature on social media your happy customers wherever possible. It's nice to feature them with a photo and a quote talking about, whatever their experience was. It's really the best way to kind of talk about your benefits without pounding your own chest. So, ways to get your business in front of prospective customers and employees online. We can think a little bit about kind of push versus pull here. So push strategies are outreach campaigns that push prospects to you. These require an investment to keep your name out there and keep your business top of mind so customers seek you out. So this is stuff like, search advertising, where you're actively paying for keywords that people are searching for as they're looking to repair, refurbish, or fix something. This also includes boosting posts on social media or doing paid social media ads, which can be a really, really effective way to get more attention on your page and on your business. And then, as opposed to a pull strategy. So a brand creates interest through its experience and efforts that make people want to use it. So this uses the assets you have in place. This is all that we've been talking about so far, these things and how you present yourself and all of the messages that you put out in the experience that you're presenting to people. This is pulling these customers in. Something that's really important if you're going to do a campaign in particular is to set up key performance indicators. So key performance indicators are quantifiable measures used to just evaluate the success of kind of anything, any campaign or effort that you're doing. Some standard key performance indicators that we use are, you can evaluate the success of a campaign through impressions. That's typically phrased as cost per thousand or, cost per thousand for brand awareness, but then that says CPM, but cost per metric. Web traffic, the click-through rate, and the cost per click. So if you want people, if your call to action is to say you post on social media and you're featuring a customer, that post should include a call to action in it. You want to try and drive people back to your website at every turn. So say, okay, this person had this great experience. And if you have a similar project and are interested, then, set up a time to meet with us. And that would be your call to action. And so then that is web traffic, right? That's driving them back to your website. So the rate at which people click through on that link that you've provided is the click-through rate. And if there's money behind that, if you've, sponsored this post, then you would be able to track the cost per each click. If you're thinking about things like conversions, such as email signups, sign up for our newsletter that we're going to send out monthly or quarterly, or however you have the bandwidth to do it, you could calculate the cost per lead. How does that, total email, the cost of the email versus how many people actually click through and sign up is what the cost per lead is. You can also sort of, when you start your social media efforts of any sort, you can look at your social media followers. I mean, maybe you don't have a social media presence right now, and then of course you're starting at 0, but maybe you already do and you want to kind of refine your social media presence and take a look at it and like make a more concerted effort there. So then you should take note of where you are right now in terms of followers, likes, and shares, and then watch that change over time with different campaigns that you're doing, and see which posts are really resonating with your followers, which posts are driving new followers, which posts are getting the best shares or the most likes. After 3 continuous months, which is the best practice for data collection, a KPI of cost per acquisition would be added and optimized against. So then you can, so from that 3-month period, then that's sort of your benchmark. So then you can say, all right, how do we go up from here for the next 3-month period? I think there we go. And then now I'm going to talk a little bit about driving organic and paid traffic with content marketing. It's my favorite thing. So like I said before, it's really important to create an editorial calendar so that you're approaching content development with a strategic eye, because it's very easy to just kind of let the universe of social media drive what you're posting on social media, just going on and saying, oh, that looks good, let's share that. However, it's much better if you're starting first with thinking about your personas and those people and how they're using content and social, and then designing posts that make sense for them. So maybe you, in your editorial calendar, like you say, every month I'm going to write a blog that features a customer success story. And every month I'm also going to feature a really successful refurbishment that we did, or just whatever you're going to try and like put in there. You can also have, you can tie things to like notable holidays and observances throughout the years, but you should write this all down on an editorial calendar that keeps you honest, keeps you tracking to those, to your key messages, so that you're making sure, okay, yes, does this blog make sense? Like, is this actually driving back for a purpose, or is this just fun and, blog or social posts, like, is it just for fun? And create fun, engaging content, that how-to content, the stuff that's really useful for the people who you want to engage with you. We typically try and say, blogging and posting to social at least 4 times a month. If you can do, maybe you can only manage posting to social that many times. But it's fantastic if you can do 4 blogs a month. You can cut that down to 2 if you don't have the resources available to do blogs. And just, when you're writing your blogs, they can be of varying lengths, right? They don't all have to be, kind of like a downloadable length or something, like with just tons of information. I mean, you can vary your lengths between 300 to 500 words. You can sometimes write blogs that are a little more in depth and that could go up to 1,000 or 1,500 words, but blogs don't have to, be novels. They should be fun and engaging, always with your keywords in the headline, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about SEO in a second. But then as far as sharing your blogs on social media, use organic and paid social to drive people back to those blogs. So every time you write a blog, share it out to social, and you might consider even sharing it a couple times, because, people don't always see what you're posting. Encourage, every time you post to social, try and send them back to your website. You could consider offering discounts off of first purchase for signing up for a newsletter. So we do, for a lot of customers, monthly newsletters that are very just kind of turnkey. So you could say, all right, I don't have a lot of resources to dedicate to a newsletter. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have 3 sections every month. And the first section is going to be a recent blog. The second section is going to be a customer feature. And the third section is going to be a product update or feature. And so then every month you have this exact formula and you just switch those 3 sections and send it out. So you can consider offering a discount off the first purchase for people for signing up for that newsletter. I keep saying monthly, but it can be quarterly. It can be whatever you can manage. You just might want to let people know, like in the header of the email, maybe it says monthly email or quarterly email, so they know when they'll be receiving it. And then there are a bunch of other things that you could include in that listed on this slide. News and events in the community, information about repair and sustainability, seasonal reminders. That's a fantastic thing, especially if you're doing it quarterly, you know, what to think about this season. Creative ways to upcycle. And then also refer a friend offers and discounts is a great way to encourage that word of mouth. So search engine optimization is an interesting little science, and so we want to think about it in terms of people who are already searching for repairs or refurbishment. And then we also want to think about it in terms of how you write your blog content. Well, actually all of your web content. So in order to start with search engine optimization, you need to create a keyword list and then optimize each page of your website, including every blog page, against that keyword list. And you can also use this for paid search ads as well. So there are a lot of services that offer keyword creation as a paid offering, but you can also kind of start it in a little bit of a DIY way and just use Google. So start by brainstorming a list of specific types of repairs or refurbishment. Okay, so like here, we're using dishwasher repair or furniture repair. Write down variations on those phrases. So like if your phrase is dishwasher repair, you would also write down washer repairs. From there, you can use tools like Google Keyword Planner or Moz Keyword Explorer. But one really easy way to do it is just simply search Google and see what keywords and key phrases are most searched in relation to what you selected. And so you can see that by just starting to type it into the Google search engine and seeing what pops down. So you can see we put a little snip in, we did it for dishwasher, and what populated was dishwasher repair in a specific location. So I live in Issaquah, so first it came up dishwasher repair Issaquah, and then dishwasher repair Seattle. And then, you know, dishwasher not draining, which is not necessarily something that you would probably immediately think, oh, okay, that's going to be the keyword, but you can see how people are typing in key phrases that are related to your business. So basically when you want to create this keyword list from simple to, you know, dishwasher not draining, and once you're kind of ready with this entire keyword list, you want to go through your website and optimize it for SEO. So you want to make sure that on every page you're using keywords or key phrases in headlines and then in body copy as well as subheads. And so there are tools that you can use that when you do one of the website builders, they offer different tools to help you do the SEO. They kind of like figure it out for you. They'll tell you if you don't have enough keywords or key phrases in a page, or if you have too many. And other things that are really important for SEO are having enough links out from your website as well as links in. So that means if you're on a certain page, are you linking to other pages in your website? And also, are you occasionally linking to other websites off your site? Google likes to see all of these things. And if you do all of these optimization tools, then your company will pop up higher in results when people are searching for things related to what you do. And then you can create a paid search strategy using these keywords. So when using paid search ads, it's important to strike a balance between competitiveness and search volume. So you have to select keywords, and some of them are highly competitive, which means like everyone in your industry is using those same keywords. So that may be really difficult, because if someone has put more money into a search campaign than you have, then they will rank higher than you on that same keyword. However, you don't want to just be completely left out of that space either. On the other hand, targeting keywords with too low of search volume might limit your traffic potential. So you kind of want to just aim for a mix, right? It's like an investing profile. You want a mix of high, medium, and low competition keywords with reasonable search volumes. And then it's important to review and update your keyword list regularly to ensure you're reaching your audiences who are already inclined to use your company. And it's important that every single time you post a blog, you go through that process and make sure that the blog itself is optimized for SEO, so that you're getting all the eyeballs you possibly can. Okay, so some people had asked about Google and Yelp reviews, and there are a lot of great resources directly from these sources, which I think we put in the appendix links to. But reviews really add credibility and increase your online ranking. So they help you appear higher in search results as well. People really put a lot of stock in reviews. So it's very important to kind of cultivate this bit of your business. So verify and create your business profile on Google and Yelp is the first step. And then the second step is truly proactively ask customers to review you on Google and or Yelp after positive interaction. So if you're reaching out to customers and saying, okay, can we feature you in a blog or on social media, and will you please review us? You can kind of do that all at the same time. You can also, if you're regularly speaking to customers, you can add it into your auto signature, review us on Google, review us on Yelp, so that people are just regularly seeing it. You can definitely put it on your website in a prominent place, asking for reviews, because it is really important for small businesses to have those reviews out there. We have evolved into a very heavy review culture. So yeah, that's definitely important. And then what's equally important is monitoring and responding with a thank you when you receive positive reviews, and also making sure that you address negative reviews. And this actually extends to social media as well. Sometimes, we will get the negative reviews, the negative comments, and there's an inclination to hide it, delete it, don't look at it. And that's not exactly the right thing to do. Because this stuff is public, you should just always be sure to address the negative reviews and make people feel heard. I'm sorry that you had that interaction. Here's how we can make it, how can we make it up to you? Or here's here's what we're offering in order to make it up to you. And very often people just kind of want to be naysayers, but they settle down when they feel heard and you know, like you're making an effort. And then you can post the star ratings on your website and social media. The website star ratings, you know, that's just another widget that you can pull in when using one of those website builders. And it's a good thing to do as you're accumulating more positive stars on your different, on Google and Yelp and other places.
I'm actually going to jump in here, Molly. Heather asked the question, how to claim a profile that's not been initiated by the business itself. Seems like there are several Yelp pages that were started simply by community members because there was no formal presence from the business. Then the business wants to figure out how to deal with it. Do you want to address that, or do you want me to address that?
Oh, you can go ahead. I kind of have more familiarity with that on Facebook.
Yeah, so because Google and Yelp are location-based review sites, they actually have the address of your business. And because of that, they automatically create a profile. And so your job is to, as a business, is to go in and verify that this is in fact your business, and that by doing that, it allows you to take control of the review site in terms of the images you post there, the description of the services you offer. It allows you to really personalize that profile in ways that reflect who you are as a brand. And typically it's a multi-step process. So you're going to have to validate the address. So typically you would have to provide some sort of example of mail that you're receiving from, to the business, a phone number you'll have to verify. And so oftentimes they'll call your business and validate it that way. But it does take a few different steps, and it can be frustrating, but it's definitely worthwhile in the long run because it allows you to then engage with your customers, both those happy customers and those who maybe didn't have the best experience, but you have an opportunity to really engage them in ways that, allow you to build that online profile. So while it might be frustrating, we highly encourage you to validate your profile and really gain control over that profile so you can engage with the community that might already be on there.
And something that just prompted me was you were talking about the business address, and maybe you don't have a storefront, but as far as in terms of like Facebook and getting a verified business status, you really would want to include things like, your business phone number and email address and website, but also the physical address. And you have to put in hours of operation too, which is, sometimes when people don't have a storefront, they're like, well, what should I put as my physical address? But you do need to include it in order to be a verified business on Facebook. And then people can rate you on Facebook as well. And that just helps establish credibility. So you would want to include that information there in your Facebook profile as well. Okay, and then this section is about recruiting and retaining employees. So I don't know if you've ever heard the term employer brand, but it's sort of thinking about your brand in terms of how it's perceived by employees and potential employees in the same way that you would think of it in terms of how it is being perceived by customers and potential customers. So you sort of go through all of these same steps with employees for your employer brand that we've talked about. Like, what is this first impression that potential employees are going to get when they encounter you? When they encounter you on a website, when they see someone share something on social, when they go to these review sites. How are potential employees going to feel at these first impressions? So you want to make sure also that when you're posting job descriptions, so if you have a job section on your website, or if you post them somewhere else, like on a job website, make sure that it's accurate and informative, that you're including, you know, the job role, responsibilities, and the expectations of what people are going to need to do. You know, even in terms of like, is there's physicality expected, there's, you know, maybe if you're, you know, you're a small business, so maybe like a job role, you might have one role, but also there are some other responsibilities that don't typically fall under that role. You want to make sure that you're highlighting that in the job description, so people don't feel like there's a bait and switch when they apply for the job. Be sure to include your benefits, flexibility in hours and working arrangements, which can be really appealing to people who maybe want to work part-time or kind of like different hours than the typical work day. To the real monetary benefits, such as health insurance. Is dental insurance included? Are there any voluntary benefits that you offer that people can opt in for? And definitely communicate that shared purpose, mutual trust, care for the community. Sort of communicate your values in your job description, because that's how people can kind of look and know if their values align with yours, and if yours is a business where they feel that they could really fit in that way. It's super important to foster a company culture internally. So to help customers connect, help employees connect with each other, help them feel, yes, this is a great place to work, you know, ask for their opinions, help them let them feel heard, and let them feel like they have a voice in how things go. Listen when they suggest things that could work better, and make appropriate changes, and reward them for using their voices. And you can reward them internally, you can reward them on social media, you know, in a public manner, and that helps foster that company culture, and that helps potential employees see, okay, yeah, this is a place that I would like to go. Consider hiring freelancers to help with seasonal spikes in business. That can be a great way to supplement. And then, of course, ask for referrals from current employees for you know, other friends and family members that they think would be interested in possibly working with you as well. Okay. So measurement and monitoring is really, really important, because if you don't do this, you won't know how you're tracking toward those key performance indicators I talked about 14,000 slides ago. Just kidding. So definitely get into your Google Analytics for your website, and take a look around, take a look under the hood, see what your current starting point is, and on a monthly basis, track those Google Analytics reports and see how your traffic sources are looking, see how people are interacting with your content. You can see how people move around your site, like from the homepage, where do they go next? How long do they stay on these pages? Which blogs are performing the best and have the most views on them? Which pages do people abandon most? So that might be something that, okay, well, this page doesn't have a really great interaction, so we might need to like take another look at that page and add some more content to it. And then you can also, so as you're measuring and monitoring, add social metrics through the social sites or through a social media management platform like Hootsuite. Hootsuite and other platforms like that are really wonderful. I kind of forgot to mention this earlier in the social media section, but even if you only have 1 or 2 social media sites, you can still get an like entry level account to Hootsuite. And in some cases, if you just have 1 social profile, I believe it's still free. If not, there's a low monthly fee for this. But if you post through a social media management platform site like Hootsuite, they have an algorithm themselves, and they can figure out and recommend the best times for you to post based on when your audience is online and engaging with your content. And so then that can just make the future content more successful. And then they also provide metrics on a monthly basis. You can actually just set it up even to be emailed to your inbox. Same thing with Google Analytics. You can create reports that are just automatically sent into your inbox, and that helps you every month. It prompts you to take a look at the metrics and see how you're doing, and see what you need to change or keep doing based on what's successful or not successful. And then, of course, you can assess all of this against your sales. And then, yeah, like I said, you just need to be optimizing, take a test and learn approach, including creating landing pages, the different creative that you're offering, and the different tactics. So if you do a specific campaign, you might want to, like an advertising campaign, for example, you might want to have a landing page for that specific campaign. And that's just kind of like a single page on your website where people would land from those specific ads, and you can track the success of the campaign that way by how many people are on the landing page, and take action on your call to actions on that page. Here we are at our summary, and then I'll open it up for questions if anybody has any. With a strong brand and a professional website, as well as a strategic approach to advertising, content marketing, social media, paid search, and really solid employee customer communications, you can establish yourself as a trusted local business. You can build long-lasting relationships and drive business growth for years to come. So that is the end of our presentation, and I can open it up for questions for me or Julie. If you want to type them in the chat or just unmute and shout it out, whatever works.
Well, people are thinking of their questions. Just wanted to point you to the chat. We have posted information about the Rethinking Recruitment session that's happening next Monday. So if you haven't registered and you're interested, there's still time. And you can go to the repaireconomywa.org website and log into that, but there's a direct link to that registration in the chat. Laura says, I didn't originally know that it was good to respond to positive reviews on Google. Would it now be awkward to go respond to reviews that are months old, or should I just move on from those and respond to ones moving forward?
I mean, it's never too late to spread happiness and kindness. And I would just say, thank them and then maybe do that in a more timely manner moving forward. But no, I would say it's never too late.
but don't let that overwhelm you such that you don't do it moving forward. So
Yeah.
I think moving forward for sure, responding to folks. And it also allows you to share more information with them. So in the example that we shared earlier, it's a fairly new zero waste bulk organic store online. And the owner here does a terrific job of responding to all of these posts and shares information about new products. So in this example, the person reviewed it and said, just wow, love the concept of the store with zero waste, totally went in awe by the look of the store. The owner responded, thank you so much for a generous review. We really appreciate it. We have poured our hearts into it and we are so glad that you love it. Please visit us again. We will be starting our cold pressed juice bar soon. So she used it as an opportunity to cross promote some future products that she's going to be offering or services that she's going to be offering. And just a really great example of, a small business who has really embraced the power of reviews online to further promote her business.
Yeah, and that's for Laura, that's something that you could do for those older reviews. If you're replying, maybe it's about something that's been updated or a new offering, or thanks so much. These are some things that we've added since you posted this review or something. You could also use that as an opportunity as well.
Yeah, Nicole says, thank you. Good skill working on your business, not in your business. And then ask the question, what is the best way for nonprofits to get help with social media?
Well, you can, so Upwork also has social media experts as well, freelancers. There are other places that you can search for social media freelancers. I would say that it's important to find someone, find someone who has actually done social media for a business for, at least 1 or 2 years, because many, the younger generation was really raised on social media. And so probably everyone knows how to use social media and how to post. But you want to find someone who's really familiar with strategic social media and social media that's branded and in line with your company and with your nonprofit, with your organization. So that's well versed in doing that in a business setting, not just in a casual setting, in a personal setting.
Yeah, and I would also note that there are some online paid tools and technologies, as Molly mentioned, that will offer nonprofit discounts and or free use of their tools for nonprofits. You just have to verify that you're a 501c3. We also, our folks over at Repair Economy said you might look into 501 Commons. They might have resources to help. Alternatively, you could reach out into your community and bring on a volunteer or intern who has some experience in this area. And I would underscore what Molly had to say. You really need to have someone who knows what they're doing and can be strategic about it. And they included a link to complete a survey about today's session.
Also, this is Cammie. I'll just jump in with some other questions in the chat. This one was for Molly, I believe, more about the messaging and different audiences. So I remember one of your slides mentioned like keep it consistent, but given what Julie was saying earlier with the different motivational profiles, how do you leverage the different types of folks that might be engaging with your business and tweaking your message to them while still being consistent?
Sure. Yeah. Something that is a good idea to do is when you're creating that content calendar, create a column that's sort of specifically for each audience that you're actively targeting. So just make sure that you have a mix of content that appeals to those different audiences. So if you have 3 different audiences that you're targeting, make sure that in every month period, you're perhaps posting one blog that's specific to each target, and at least 2 to 3 social media posts that are specific to each target, because people will kind of just scroll by what doesn't apply to them. But if you just make sure that you're putting something out that's relevant for everyone, at least one piece of content that's relevant for each audience, then they're likely to see it. And one super fast way to do that on social media is when you're thinking about those audiences and those personas, if you think about what those people look like, and when you're sharing imagery, people like to see themselves in imagery. On social media, we just naturally gravitate toward people who look like us, communities that look like ours. It's people definitely tend to stop. And so when you're doing stuff that's specific to those audiences, you might want to really think about which images you use, that's like further communicating that audience. They're more likely to scroll. Stop scrolling.
And I think also, just to layer onto that, there are similarities across your different personas. So in the examples we shared, the eco trends and the healthy life and planet profiles, both were actively seeking to, do sustainable things. And so there were some messages that would resonate across those 2 personas. And
Sure.
So finding similarities where you can tell the story in engaging ways to attract, multiple audiences is also helpful.
Yeah, and you can also do that through, so I used the word shareables earlier. I don't know if we just kind of refer to them as shareables when it's sort of like an image that communicates, that has text over it, that might be something cute or funny or a stat or something informative, but you can use those shareables that would appeal to different audiences. So, for example, a couple of your audiences are really interested in kind of the proof points behind the facts and figures. And so maybe you find a really compelling stat and put that and share that as a shareable, and that satisfies sort of, targeting both of those audiences in 1 month.
Great. We're at time, but I just wanted to have one quick last question, since we've heard from so many of our businesses that it's just 1 or 2 or maybe a few people, and no one has time to focus on their marketing. What is the one most critical piece of advice that you 2 could share? Like basic, you got to do this first.
Julie, you want to?
I would recommend carving out a half hour a day in your schedule. Actually schedule it on your calendar and tick away at these things in the order that we presented them today. And some of you may have already established a really strong website or social media profiles, and it's really jumping into developing regular content to appeal to those audiences. But don't make it overwhelming. Break it down into small, little, reasonable chunks, and you will get there. It might take a little longer. And if you have more time that you can schedule through this, certainly do so. But why don't you just spend the next week half an hour a day, whether it's first thing in the morning when you're drinking your cup of coffee, or the last thing you do to close out your day, or it's something that you do while you're, cuddled up on your couch in the evening, right? So just schedule time and make a commitment to this, and you will see results.
All right, Molly, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I just was gonna add from just from a social media perspective, because I think that can be really overwhelming for people. You can directly through the sites as well as through a Hootsuite or otherwise schedule things in advance. And I think that that is a big time saver for people. So if you happen to have downtime on a particular day and can devote a couple of hours, you can go in and schedule content for an entire month. And so then you just don't have to think about it for the rest of the month. You can go in and say, okay, these are going to be my posts, this is my, and then you're giving, you're engaging with people, you're posting things, but you're not thinking about it for the rest of the month. So I would use things like planners, as much as you can, lean on those things, because that will help you. And during your busy time. So in a downtime, set it, and during your busy times, then you're all set.
Great. Thank you both so much. And thanks to everyone gathered here. We'll see some of you this afternoon for the Not So Risky Business session. And be sure to fill out that survey. I'll add it again in the chat, and I'll be sending it out in a follow-up email. All right. Thank you both. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.